Hello there, internets. Still trying to figure out my technology here, so sorry if that's a long pause before I actually started talking. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit, be a little bit more positive. On reflecting on sort of the content that I've been putting up, have just kind of realized I've been talking a lot about like pitfalls and ways that things can go wrong and whatnot. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the ways that things go right and the experiences that you get to have when you are practicing that you might not get to have otherwise. Ongoing, shall we say, learning opportunities with the technology and whatnot. I mean, the camera, we're having a little bit of a dialogue about color saturation, so who knows how that's going to turn out. Lighting is still an ongoing process, and I have no idea where to put my microphone at the moment. So who knows what the audio quality is like. Hopefully not atrocious. The other thing that's going on is, with this change in setup, I have no idea where I'm going to put notes. Maybe hang them over there or something. I don't know. So I don't have any notes, so I'm just spitballing here, just to let you know. Behind me at the moment, we got this is what San Francisco looks like in July, evening, afternoon. It's bloody cold, so if you ever come to this city, pack a sweater. Right? Let me just duck out of frame here. That's what it looks like. I see so many unfortunate tourists freezing their butts off. So, you know, PSA in addition to what we're going to talk about. So what I want to talk about today is intelligence, grace, and a little bit on something called spiritual dryness. So we're going to dip into sort of the mystical literature a little bit and talk about some of the experiences that people in the past have had when they're struggling to be happy human beings. So the first thing I want to talk about, why do I end up sounding a little bit negative, right? So a long time ago I had a conversation with a friend of mine about Buddhism and Taoism. Now, Buddhism and Taoism, my opinion, they're talking about the same thing. Not a hair's breadth of difference between the two of them, as far as what the purpose is, what the goal is. But the emphasis of the texts that I've read is different. And my friend had the same experience. And so she was saying, like, I'm more into Taoism. It seems more positive. It seems more, oriented on this, like, positive view of life. Buddhism's so negative. There's all this stuff about, suffering and all this stuff about you're going to have to struggle for countless eons to get to this end state. In Taoism, the man of Tao, he's happy, he's light, life is easy. Which I think is actually a fair casual reading of the material that I've read. I happen to think that's a criticism not of Buddhism, but of Taoism, because Taoism kind of focuses a lot on the end state. You have this wise sage for whom life is easy and joyful, and he just passes through the world like a light breeze. Okay, great. How do we get there? How do I, just cruising along being a human being in the world, get to that awesome end state? Crickets at that point from whatever to Taoism. Now, I'm sure, to be fair to the Taoists, that there are later commentaries that, give you a little bit more process, but that is available in spades in Buddhism. And if you want to talk about the end state, which is far away from the experience most people are going to have, then, you might not come away with such a clear picture in Buddhism versus Taoism. Taoism's just like, here's the sage, here's what his life is like. Buddhism's like, okay, yes, here's the sage, but here's where you are, and here's all the obstacles that live between you and where the sage is. And I tend to think that that's better pedagogy. That's a better way to teach people, because it's more fair to the experience that people are going to have when they start trying out practicing to be a happy human being. There are going to be times when it sucks. There's no way around that. So telling people about that up front, preparing them for the fact that, yes, sometimes it's going to be really fun, and other times it's going to suck. Here are the tips for how to deal with when it sucks, is important. But you also do need to spend some time talking about the really fun. So all of that preamble out of the way, intelligence. So the human mind, I just had a moment where I was like, why do I always mime that? I don't know. The human brain constructs a mind, an experience of a mind. It has an innate faculty of intelligence, which is sort of integrative and analytical faculty. We can take information in from the world, we can assess it, we can process it in some way, and we can come up with new ideas that serve our interests so we can act in the world constructively, creatively, and attend to our well-being. Right? That's a basic function of the human mind. That's why it's worth it to have this giant calorie sink on top of our head. In our head. The resources required by the brain are tremendous. It's got to have a purpose, and that's one of them. Now, most of us don't get to have a sort of an uncluttered experience of our innate intelligence, and we get mixed up as to exactly what's doing the work. And so we have this view of the process of thinking that involves this discursive process, and it's very verbal. It's like there's some chain of thoughts going on through my mind, and when that chain has been allowed to go for long enough, I will arrive at a result, and that'll be the information that I need. And my experience has been, and the experience of just about everybody I've talked to who has spent a lot of time really digging on this, that's not actually what's doing the work. There is that discursive process, but that's mostly noise. That the work actually happens behind the scenes. So you have to focus on a problem, orient your brain to a given problem domain, and then you have to get out of the way, go do something else. And this background process goes on that does the integration, does the analysis, and when that's all done, it drops the information on you. You just go cruising along and ping, oh, whoa, yes, that's it. That process is how intelligence operates. The whole discursive thing, language is for communicating with other human beings. It's not for achieving results within your mind. So if you hear a lot of language in your head, that's probably actually just some mimetic process firing off that you've received from interacting with other human beings. That's not actually sort of the meat and potatoes of how your brain is getting you the information you need. And it's a bit like, it's a bit like the crowd at a sports game. The crowd is definitely there, and it definitely makes a lot of noise, but it doesn't contribute tremendously to the outcome, right? Even if, sometimes members of the crowd are like, yeah, we did it. No, the people on the field did it. And your innate intelligence is what's providing you the information that you need to attend to your well-being. And then there's this whole discursive process that may or may not claim credit for it after the fact. So how it comes to be that we aren't familiar with that process is a whole series of videos. I remember being trained away from attending to that process as a child. I was very upset by it because when I was in first and second grade, I had the same teacher, and so she was just like, oh God, I don't know what to do with you here. If you just do problems in this math book that I'm not going to explain to you each day, then you can go play Oregon Trail in the back. And so I figured out how to do like multiplication and such just by sort of looking at the problems and then looking at the answers and intuiting what the connection between those two things were. But I could never explain what the heck was going on. I just always got the right answer. And so I just look at the problem, and then, some time would pass, and then ping, there's the answer. Okay, cool, write it down. And so I got in a lot of trouble for that. Even though I was ahead of grade level, I got accused of cheating when I was in like 4th grade, even though I was turning in my assignments first in class. Madness. And the information that I got is it's not okay, and you're not allowed to just get the answer from the back of your head and not have a discursive process to explain where the answer came from. And only decades later did I realize, no, that's fine. That's actually fine. That's the way that our brains are supposed to work. You don't need to be able to explain every piece of information that you receive. It's helpful if you want to convince other people to get on board with some plan, but if you're just trying to gain insight into what's going on in your life, it's actually fine to just have that information drop in, validate it, verify it, make sure it's on the up and up, but to receive information in that way. So my experience is I was trained to be skeptical, deeply skeptical of receiving information in that way, and that caused me to miss out on a lot of opportunities to actually gain insight into what was going on in my life experience. When I started digging into sort of like mystical literature, because I'd already dug in a ton to psychology and philosophy and every other tradition that I could find, I started seeing all these people talking about these experiences of receiving information that was really important to them and really sort of life-changing and life-affirming. I'm going, wait a minute. I've had that experience before. I remember having that experience a lot. What's going on there? And only later did I come to realize, like, oh, this process that I was trained out of was actually just my innate faculty of intelligence doing its thing. I got the information was accurate. It took me a while to unpack it and be able to verbalize it and explain it to another person, so that wasn't my first go-to with that information, but it's actually there. Okay. So I started cultivating that experience. And when you cultivate that experience, you discover this amazing thing, which is that it feels experientially as if that information is coming to you from somewhere outside of yourself, because you're so identified with this discursive process, words passing along in your mind, this train of thought process. That's me thinking that when information just appears as if out of the aether in your mind, and it's full and complete, and it's not serialized, it's this whole picture of exactly what the solution is to whatever problem you've been focusing your noodle on, it feels like that was just dropped on you by an outside power for free. And it's often accompanied by like just a fat hit of dopamine. Like everything feels really good. You have the aha, and your whole being kind of lights up for a moment, which is, you're being rewarded for doing the thing that humans are supposed to do. It's not like a magical thing. It's just your brain is functioning well, and so it's going like, yes, this is good. Let's keep doing this. But that experience very easily ends up lending itself to a magical or mystical explanation. And so as I'm reading, I'm reading Teresa of Avila, who's a Christian saint, and she's sort of describing this process. She's describing this process that I'm experiencing as, oh, my brain is just doing the thing it's meant to do, and I'm getting the heck out of the way. She's describing that as grace, and I'm like, oh, I get that. Yeah, I totally get that, actually. It feels like I didn't earn this. It feels like I'm cheating somehow, that, I've been trained that I have to go through this laborious step-by-step process to get to the information that I need, and all I'm doing is spending a little time paying attention to what it is that's going on, and then chilling out, and then half an hour later, or maybe the next day, I know exactly what I need to do in response to that situation. Well, that's way easy. That seems too cheap to be fair, in a sense. If other people are working hard to get the information and I'm getting it for free, what did I do to deserve that? And I think that is a really significant experience, and I think that that's an experience that more people should be made aware of and given the tools to cultivate, because it makes life really easy if all you have to do is pay attention. You don't have to go through any rigmarole, there's no turmoil, there's no anything, you just pay attention, wait a little while, bing, there's all the information that you need. And it's complete, you don't have to work through it, there's no processing, it's just ping, alright, cool, let me just go do that, and my needs are met. My well-being is attended to, I can just get on with life rather than having to go through this agonizing process of sort of figuring out what's going on. So that's a mode that's possible, and that's really what a lot of practices in mystical traditions are about cultivating. It's just this experience of actually attending to the world as it is, or whatever your experience is of it, and then allowing your innate faculty of intelligence to do its thing, get out of the way, then the information drops in, it's free, it's easy, you get on with your life. And stepping out of these sort of discursive processes that distract us from being able to just hear when that information's available. And it's a little bit problematic in that a lot of people's minds are very noisy. They're very cluttered. There's all kinds of stuff going on at all times, which an introspective practice like meditation is really good because it makes that obvious. If you're sitting in a place that's quiet and nothing's going on and still a tremendous amount's going on in your mind, then your mind is actually out of proportion with your experience. If nothing's going on in the world and a tremendous amount's going on in your mind, there's a disconnect there, right? And that disconnect is what can obscure your ability to just receive the information that your innate intelligence has done all the work, right? So in the background, it's done all the work. It's trying to push through this information, get your well-being attended to, and because there's so much going on, there's so many voices, there's so many emotional experiences, there's so much just attached to whatever's going on in the world, you miss it. You can't get that information, and so life is hard. And when you train yourself to pay attention to what's going on, to have extended experiences of quiet in your mind, you open up the gaps, and then boom, that information just comes in. You get that free and easy experience. So that's what that man of Tao is pointing at. That's what the sages are pointing at. That's what all those experiences are pointing at, is just the fact that your mind has this faculty. It's actually doing all the work. I would contend that if you did a very close inspection of your experience, what you would find is that all the really good information in your life comes to you in that way. It doesn't come about through a laborious process of sort of grinding through verbal cognition in order to arrive at some conclusion. It comes in the quiet moments, in the moments when you're sort of relaxed and the activity has died down a little bit. You have a boo, aha moment, and then all the information is right there. You can see it perfectly clearly, all the detail that you need. That's your innate faculty of intelligence doing its thing, and that's sort of your conscious mind getting out of the way. And that's what you can cultivate through an introspective practice to allow you to have the free and easy life experience that is being pointed at by like the man of Tao or the sage. And when you have that experience, it does very much feel like the state of grace. It feels like you've just been chosen for this blissful, easy life experience. And it's so good that it feels like there's nothing you could have done to have earned that or deserved it. And it actually ends up being this really tremendous wellspring of compassion, because when you're having an experience that's that nice, it's like, wow, other people are not having this experience. I so want to help them have this experience. They need to be having this experience. This is so good. And it's just an innate thing that's possible for everybody if we just train ourselves to sort of get out of the way of our mind doing exactly what it's meant to do. So, with that, there comes, as you train, ebb and flows in your ability to have that experience and your ability to perceive that. The sixth patriarch of Zen Buddhism used the image of that sort of innate faculty of the mind, which he called wisdom. It's like the sun, it's always shining. But sometimes there are clouds between you and the sun. So if it's very cloudy, you can't see the sun. It's unfortunate, but if you wait long enough, the clouds will part, then you can see the sun again. That's how this innate faculty of intelligence is working, and all that chatter that's going on is the clouds obstructing you from being able to see what you need. So sometimes the clouds are going to come in, and sometimes the clouds are going to come in real thick. And that experience, if you read the mystical literature, sort of is described as spiritual dryness. I think that's exactly the term that St. Teresa uses. And that's going to happen. So if you go out there, if you start practicing all the sort of techniques that we're talking about, if you miss all the pitfalls, and you have a good run, you're going to start to get to have more of this experience of your innate intelligence. You're going to get this nice, free, and easy experience, and everything's going to be really great, and then the clouds are going to come in. And then you get cut off from that for a moment, and it's, oh no, the going back to the old ways is not that fun. And that's sort of, is a real moment of weakness for a lot of folks who are treading on the path. When the clouds come in, they're no longer able to access that source of information, and they really just sort of have to rely on the practices to get through that time period and wait for the clouds to part again, and really have to engage with a practice of letting go and just accepting what's going on. Like, oh, okay, things are not so easy right now. That's fine. This is going to be okay, because eventually I'll get back to that experience of the free and the easy life. Right? I'll be the gentle breeze passing through life again, but for the moment, I'm just going to be this stone rooted in this spot, unilluminated. And over time, those windows get a lot shorter. The windows of time where you get to just get all the information that you need for free and lovely hits of dopamine along the way become extended. So it's a nice life experience, and that's what really all this is about. There is a whole collection of technique and a whole collection of practice and a whole collection of sort of different metaphors to try to help people have one experience, which is their own innate intelligence being able to act unobstructed to give them the information that they need to attend to their well-being. If that's happening, if you're seeing that, if you're perceiving your own innate intelligence, you're happy. Period. End of story. The training, the practice, is to make sure that that's happening all the time, or at least a lot of the time. And you get more and more of it over time. You get less and less of the unfortunate experiences over time. Gradually, you trend towards being a happier human being. And so that's I hope, the more optimistic, happy, end state-oriented sort of Taoist-esque presentation of what this is all about. Is just really, your mind's a wonderful thing. It has tremendous faculties. They're all set up to take care of you, and if you can train yourself to let them operate, they'll do it. Simple as that. It's easy. It feels free. It feels great. So keep practicing. Hopefully you get there.